in Unit 4, if you have equations, they make lines that cross each other as long as they have different slopes. They have different slopes, so I know they're going to intersect somewhere. I just don't know where, and it intersects at 2, 4, and I can plug them in and find out. Number 40A was by far the hardest question. What I want you to know about 40A is that the answer actually comes out to a fraction, and there will be nothing that has you graph that comes out to be a fraction on your test. This is more like an honors type of question. I want to say that for the record. For my normal student, for most of you who are in here, don't worry about doing something like this. But if you feel like you are an honors kid and you're going to try to go for that, this is something you should be able to do. Okay. What I did in it is I turned this into y equals mx plus b, and I graphed it. I turned this into y equals mx plus b, and I graphed it, and then I saw that it didn't go through exactly a point. So then to figure out where it was exactly, I used substitution and plugged this equation, this y, into that equation right there, and I solved it finding that x was equal to negative 19 over 5. Once I found that, then I plugged that into one of the equations, and I simplified that using my calculator in fractions. So very ugly answers, negative 19 fifths and negative 8 fifths, or negative 3.8, negative 1.6 are the answers. If I'm just curious how many of you actually got that in this class? 2? Perfect. That sounds about right. Maybe. I thought there would be about 5, to be honest with you, but that's okay. I'll take that. 40B. The two lines in 40A have another special property. What is it and why? They are perpendicular. The slopes are perpendicular because their slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. If I box this slope and box this slope, one's a 2, the other one's a negative 1 over 2. Not only are they reciprocals, they're also different signs. They're perpendicular because the slopes are negative or opposite reciprocals. When I was stamping homework, a lot of you, I was looking at these graphs and I said, where's your shading? Don't forget, with an inequality, there are an infinite number of answers on half of your graph should be shaded. When you graph something, we should be shading either one side of the line or the other. And so as you subtract 2x from both sides and divide by negative 3, which flips this inequality, you should have a dotted line because it's not equal to it, and we're shading below it because 0, 0 doesn't work in this problem if you test it. I should be shading below. The mouth's eating the x too, by the way. And these are just possible answers. Answers will vary. This was one of those questions on your test, the last test that you took, that I go, man, they could have anything. And I had to check every single person's answer individually. 42, we have two lines. One's a solid line, one's a dotted line. Shaded to the upper left corner. I believe on A I put yes, B was no, C was no, D was yes, E was no, F was no, G was no, and H was yes. Those ones we should all have the same thing. Then I saw a lot of people on 43 have issues with 43. So let's talk about what this is. Plan A. $40 per month as a flat fee no matter how many minutes are used. So here's plan A. 40 bucks. If I use 0 minutes, 100 minutes, 200 minutes, 300 minutes, doesn't matter. I pay $40 flat rate. Then there's plan B. $15 per month plus 10 cents for each minute used. So I started plan B at $15, which is in between the 10 and the 20. And then what I decided to count by was hundreds. It made it more simple for me to figure out when is it better to be one or the other. With 100 minutes, I pay, times it by 0.1, I pay an extra $10, from 15 to 25. 200 minutes, I'm paying an extra $10 than that, 35. 300 minutes, I pay an extra $10 than that, I'm paying 45. So I actually know where the break-even point is. I know if I use more than 200 something minutes, then I should use plan A will be cheaper. If I use less than 200 minutes, plan B would be cheaper. It depends on how many minutes you use. Which is cheaper for Sue, who talks 200 minutes a month, and why? So here's 200 minutes. This is below that one. And this is the whole reason we asked you these kinds of questions on the last test. Is this question above? Is this question below? Is this point above or this one below? Are these solutions? And so for 44, you should have got true, true, false, true, true, true. Any questions on those? On my answer sheet, oh, and G was true. I didn't read that one out. On my answer sheet, there was an extra, I'm missing number 45, and I realized that yesterday, so here is my 45. I just haven't answered them yet. Let's go ahead and do that real quick so that I have the same answers as you. F of x. Here's what the weird part. They have this x is less than 1. So here's this. I'm going to put a dotted line right there. And I'm going to put, here's 1. And here is x is greater than 1 on this side. And x is less than 1 on this side. When x is less than 1, covering it up. When we're on this side, let me put the g of x here. And let me put the f of x there. When x is less than 1, f of x is less than g of x. Is this line less than this line? I'm getting true. I zoomed in way too much for that. Let me zoom out a little bit. When f of x is less than g, when x is greater than 1, let's see. Is f of x less than g of x? Are these points smaller than, meaning smaller or lower or below these points? That's false. F of x is greater than g of x when x is greater than 1. Here's x is greater than 1. Is f of x on top of the g of x one? Are these higher than those ones? That's true. F of x is greater than g of x when x is less than 1. I'm over on this side. F of x is greater than g of x. That's false. F of x equals g of x when x equals 1. Are they the same at this point at x equals 1? That is true. F of x equals g of x when x equals negative 2. 1, 2. They're not the same. That's false. So there are those extra answers that you need as well.